Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Honest Conversations with Mo, the Mo Love Podcast. Yeah, we back at it. Like I said, I'm just trying to do my best to be more consistent with the pod and just, overall, just in regards to life overall, just, a little bit of consistency. But I want to get right down into it for today's, opener. Um, and what kind of inspired this concept, of course, I've kind of talked about, my enjoyment of House of Lies, very great TV show. But this is in regards to episode 5 of season 5, episode 1, the opener for the, final season of House of Lies, and it was just interesting to watch it. Marty Khan, as he spoke on just the difference between what is me versus what is mine. I thought that was an interesting concept that struck my mind and kind of got me thinking a bit, and of course, kind of wanted to understand it in regards to myself. What is me versus what is mine, and I had to think on that for a little bit and understand, what is mine is, of course, family, friends, your career, your salary. Those are the things that are that are mine. But would be for yours unless it's, completely different. But I think to what is me, I'm a walking contradiction in the sense of just, various different layers to kind of who I am and how, I kind of go through everyday life in the sense of uh really really struggling with, certain things. And I know we all are, struggling with different things that we kind of deal with. And I think that's the interesting and intense thing about, I guess, kind of that fear in a sense. And I kind of talked about it in previous episodes, of course, that, losing yourself and what that looks like, and self confidence versus self awareness. Um, really, what is, but what is me, is so layered. And, I just, I guess connect with people. I mean, I guess it's hard for me to kind of really get into it. Just in terms of me, just know, walking contradiction. Like, I love to laugh. My sense of humor can be a little off-putting, because I think, when we think of the different versions of ourselves, and what is it, a part of ourselves that, kind of ties into, our mind, body, and soul, and how do we separate, what is me versus what is mine. I think it's tough at times because we really we really know what is ours, but who are we at, at our core? And I even think to myself, as far as, as I'm asking you guys this question, kind of thinking out loud in the sense of, what is me? I know I'm this multi hyphenated, individual in the sense of what I'm able to do and able to create, um, very talented. It was yesterday. I went to an improv show, and that improv show showed just, my my enjoyment for, wanting to laugh. I know what is me in the sense of, I'm a helper. I like to, help people out, but being able to separate being a helper from asking for help, and knowing when to, you know not want everything. I know that is a part of what is me. I kind of, want everything, but I know that's not possible to have everything. That's why, my curiosity, that's me. Um, my overall, just enjoyment for life and the appreciation for the people around me. My how hard, I love in the sense of just connecting and, growing, and then really figuring out, tapping into those superpowers that are mine, um, that make up who I am, and just understanding, those are the things that are, me. So I mentioned, my curiosity to want to learn and, figure things out. And yeah, so, those are the things that are just me. And I think as we kind of go through that, as I mentioned earlier, being a walking contradiction, what does that mean and what does that look like for just the normal individual? I think it's when we know that we're we're not, but dang, kind of left off on a tangent on that improv thing. Let me go back to that for a quick second. In regards to the improv show, and just really being able to enjoy and have a good time, and then went out there and face that kind of fear of just going with the situation and just seeing where it takes. And I had a great time. Would definitely do it again. Definitely recommend. But yeah, just finding these different things that I kind of been enjoying of late, and the activities that fill me up. I think it's important to understand that as well in terms of the what is me versus what is mine, and how do we define ourselves, and um, how do we figure out these different aspects of ourselves. So it's always interesting. Um, because in various different layers, we're all we're all walking contradictions. We have contrasting emotions that occur at the same time, and we feel we have to repress one emotion over the other, um, and tending to kind of lose those pieces of ourselves that don't honor who we are, at our core. So that's always interesting to kind of note, kind of what being a walking contradiction looks like. And then the next, I guess I want to move on to the next thought I had, or kind of what I wanted to discuss was what, and this was from a journaling event that I went to, by Strokes of Freedom. Uh, our girl Ashley, she rewrote the event, but just the understanding of I didn't write this at the time, this prompt, but I kind of held it in the back of my mind. I felt like I could have wrote about it, but I'd rather speak on it. And then that's this question of what parts of me am I trying to avoid? And I think we all know there's different parts of ourselves that we're trying to avoid. For instance, for myself, I guess hearing myself and kind of listening to myself, I guess that's why I know I speak in such a, calm, calm demeanor. Knowing, I guess, when I was younger, I used to have, kind of a temper. Um, but eventually, of course, grew out of that. But just understanding, that part of myself, the part of myself that gets, frustrated and, annoyed, and, are those the parts of myself I'm looking to avoid, or the part of myself that, you know, when we're in moments of discomfort, or in moments where we almost seamlessly don't recognize ourselves, we tend to feel, uncomfortable, and indecisive in that sense, and understanding that because of my sense of curiosity, I go back to the I want everything, but knowing uh, that wanting the best, and wanting you know that perfect, or putting things aside till the right time, and or just getting caught up in that someday mentality of, oh, it's I'll do this someday, but instead getting out of that and you know focusing on today, focusing on the moment. um and then I think to the parts of myself also I'm trying to avoid is the I had it and then I lost it. It'll come back to me. It'll come back to me. Because I think in the sense of when we're figuring out the parts of ourselves we're trying to avoid, it's always hard to really do that deep dive into ourselves and really wonder, like, what parts of ourselves are we trying to avoid? What parts of ourselves are we hiding from ourselves? And I think it's interesting to understand that as well, is that we have to be willing to be ourselves to ourselves, most importantly, before we can be it for anybody else. And I think that's key. It was going to be, oh man, the other part of myself I'm trying to avoid is, I feel like that's I guess also that survivor's guilt I feel like I have because of my heart condition, um, and going through so many surgeries and not knowing what the end result would have been. Like, I think it was the second surgery. It went longer than it was expected. So just to, kind of think on that. And then also the survivor's guilt of just kind of understanding where I come from. And, at the time, my family is, running and getting out during the, civil war in Somalia at the time. So, and, off to a refugee camp in Kenya. So it's just interesting to kind of deal with that type of, survivor's guilt, but understanding, I am a survivor and trying to do my best to survive. I think that's important too, and understanding those parts of ourselves, because it's almost as if, as saying, like, just understanding, kind of what existence kind of really means, and really, putting that into perspective and overall, and just looking into that. And I'm sure, we all have, parts of ourselves we're trying to avoid. If you, like to share those parts of yourselves you're trying to avoid, definitely, would love to hear it and kind of, get your thoughts on, what parts of you you're trying to avoid. Because I think it's, like I said, it's good to dissect and learn ourselves in that regard. And then now, I guess I do have to touch on the last two, major sporting events over the last couple of weeks since I last spoke to you guys. But yeah, so I guess we'll segue into the Super Bowl, because this year's Super Bowl was interesting. I feel like, my predictions were correct in the sense of I was off by the score, but I knew Patty Mahomes would pull it off in, the fourth quarter. And of course, this required overtime with the final score 25-22. But just knowing what the Chiefs are kind of building over there, kind of this, I guess, is it time to label it a dynasty? Is it time to start putting them, kind of in the pantheon of, that Patriots, early, Steelers dynasties, so it's going to be interesting. I mean, Patty Mahomes is that guy. He is the best quarterback in the NFL. So that's going to be fun. But it was a great game. Usher's performance, incredible. He did that, and really, I mean, yeah, I felt like you could tell the technical difficulties that were happening, as it was occurring live. That was interesting to note, because it is on television, and it is, how television is. But yeah, halftime was incredible, and then on to NBA All Star Weekend. Yeah, All Star Weekend was rough. I think it was 211 points by the East, because they went back to the East West format this year. Dunk contest was rough. The Sabrina Ionescu versus Steph Curry shootout was incredible. Uh, where Steph came out, of course, on top 29-26. Where Sabrina, if she would have been in the men's, she would have tied Dave. Obviously, Dave went in the men's or the NBA 3-point contest. And that was interesting to see what four guys got 26 in the first round. And then to see 26 be the final score. Yeah, and then 26 being Sabrina and SQ's number. 26 was the interesting number that night. So yeah, that was a random thing I had considered that night. But All Star Weekend was incredible. Dunk contest, horrible, trash. Let's bring some pro dunkers. Let's do. I think Gil mentioned, $1 million cash prize, and whoever wants to come get it, and because Mac McClung was great. I think it was kind of, you could kind of tell the narrative the league was trying to go for, in the sense of, the NBA All Star versus the G Leaguer. Speaking of the G Leaguers, Rising Stars, G Leaguers beat the rookies. They had Vic, Paolo, Jabari Smith Jr. Who else was on that team? Scoot was on that team. And then I feel like I'm missing some other guys. But yeah, the G Leaguers, they were hooping. And I like that they were able to get, their shine and their light through that game. Really showcasing their abilities against, NBA talent. And obviously it's young talent, but it's talent that, they can still NBA talent. These guys are still, in the NBA. Obviously young guys, rookies, most second year players. So really being able to, put that spotlight on the G League. And yeah, I love that these guys are able to get that love. Obviously, they lost to Team Jalen, who had the MVP, Benedict Mathurin. He was hooping. And Indiana team's going to be nice coming out of post All-Star break as they continue to get healthier. Yeah, dunk contest got to change. It's gonna be interesting what they continue to try to do on that end, and of course with the All Star Game too. Obviously, we've been hearing how it wasn't competitive, and it wasn't competitive at all. So I think as we continue to figure out, or as the league continues to figure out how they want the history of the dunk contest to kind of continue on forward. I think that'll be interesting how the dunk contest will evolve. And do you go back to, the youth and just, have a bunch of young guys dunk it out, but be the star young guys, kind of how they did really do it kind of back in the day. So where guys kind of did it early on in their careers. So I think it'll be interesting in how the NBA reshapes the NBA dunk contest overall, and this All Star weekend, the All Star game. I think the tournaments, if they did that for the All Star game, that would be fire. If they did it to like 60 instead, and then the final game to like 24 or 30, that would be a top tier game. If they did the Rising Stars format for All Star game, because then you could have that way you would have to add, because you currently have 24, so it would add 6 more spots, and then you have what, groups of 3 battle out against each other, East West, and then of course the final or semifinals and finals. So it's because then it could go from 24 semifinals, final round 11. That would be fire. That'd be fire. So yeah, that would be hey, just things I kind of think about. But that would be fun to potentially see how the NBA looks to reshape All Star Weekend. Um, but before I wrap up and get to the our top four for this week, kind of want to summarize kind of what I was saying in the sense of the parts of ourselves that we're trying to avoid, and kind of what Marty Kahn was kind of asking in the what is me versus what is mine. You know, the things that are ours are not the things that are us. They're just things. So I think it's important to kind of remember that, and as we kind of figure out how we navigate, through our journeys, through our lives, and in terms of figuring out our purposes, in terms of figuring out what connects with our mind, body, and souls, and just what makes us us, and what makes us overall unique as individuals, and we tap into those layers of ourselves, I think is instrumental and very key. And then for the top four for this week, we'll get into favorite album. I don't think I have a favorite album from this couple of weeks. I just been listening to a lot of great music. I went to this poetry. Harmonies and Hues was the name of the event in Charlotte. Obviously in Charlotte, but in the city, and it was dope, and it was this dope artist, Big Dope Easy, and almost pimping that track, fire. Back to Me, Kanye and Ty Dolla $ign on the Vultures One album, fire. I think that Vultures One album, I think that would probably be, but I think it's just Back to Me is the really standout song that stood out to me. Um, and it was a couple of other things. As far as the music, I just kind of been listening to, new music, my new music vibes, and the new songs, and trying to, listen to more new music, but also, my mostly played music. So haven't really been listening to an album very heavily of late. So, but yeah, it's been a bunch of songs that I really enjoyed. And then as far as favorite show to watch currently, well, earlier today I did try to watch. Well, currently watching Bears, the Bear, um, and I like it. I like it. I felt like I tried a couple episodes before. It was too much of a slow start, but as it started to build the story, I'm getting into it now. I do like it. I like it. But what else have I been watching? Oh man, what other shows have I been watching? There's been a couple. What did I just finish? Finished House of Lies a while ago. Weeds a while ago. Uh oh, the Irrational. That's a good show. That's a good show. I forget who makes it. Is it ABC Studios? I don't know if they make it. No, it's not an ABC show. Is it CBS? CBS. It might be a CBS show or Paramount. I think that's who makes the Irrational. It's whoever makes the track. Okay, so yeah, it has to be CBS. But Irrational, that's a good show. The Irrational, it kind of talks. It's obviously this detective who who survived a terrorist attack, and now he works in human behavior, and he's able to kind of understand human behavior, and it's a real good, interesting show in terms of getting insight into the mind and kind of, what makes us tick. I think is always interesting. It's something, as I mentioned, my curiosity. I think that's why I'm interested in shows like that, because I'm able to just, watch it and kind of get into it and kind of figure out, these different characters. So The Irrational is another good show. What do I currently have going on? Just continue to grow, as far as, career wise, and then as an individual, just going to more events. I think knowing, uh, I think also, I guess, in terms of, to get back to the parts of myself I was trying to avoid, is how I do enjoy, connecting with people, but just understanding, how I have to create that obvious balance. But that's internally, something I'm figuring out within myself. But I think it's important to understand the balance of how we know we can connect with people and, foster healthy, friendships and, romantic relationships, you know, family, and just our relationships, of course, most importantly is, with ourselves and with God, and just figuring out those parts of ourselves. So yeah, just, challenging myself to, keep going to more events, get out there, socialize a bit more. But yeah, I think it's always interesting. I think it's because of this, of course, about to turn 30 relatively soon. So it's, the start of the parts of myself that, I want to let go of, or the parts of myself, I'm getting more in tune with. So I think that's what's been kind of going on and kind of what I've been figuring out overall. And, of course, trips, work trips, as I would say, personal trips. I locked in, the birthday trip, so that's secured. Uh, I'm excited for that. Booked my flight, booked the Airbnb, so I'm excited for that. And where just, of course, excited for 30 overall. And then I guess that's kind of what I'm looking forward to, these coming weeks as I, continue to grow, continue to learn more about myself, continue to connect with people more, and develop, kind of those healthier connections that I feel like we all require, because it's human nature to connect and, engage with people. Um, and yeah, of course, just looking forward to the events. Like I said, I mean, because I just like go to like so many different random things that it's just so much. It's so fun to learn, different things to learn. But yeah, I'm excited for all that. But as always, I appreciate you all for always listening. Once again, this is another episode of Honest Conversations with Mo, the Mo Love Podcast. Appreciate y'all for joining again. Peace, as always. Peace and love.